Well, there's a lot of sources for gardening information, and one of the favorites for many gardeners is the Farmer's Almanac. And this is the 200th anniversary of the Farmer's Almanac. And you know, they give out information such as frost-free dates and planting by the moon, those types of things. Well, recently, Rob McClendon, host of OETA's morning news program Sun Up, and producer-director Mark Reynolds met with a representative from Farmer's Almanac and filed this report.
When Robert Bailey Thomas sold his first Farmer's Almanac on a Boston street corner for 6 pence, the crusty New Englander probably had little idea that 2 centuries and 22 publishers later, it could still be had for about 200 sixpence, or about $2.95.
The informational material in the almanac is presented largely the same way it was when Robert Thomas first started it in 1792. But of course, we've added a lot more material. We published many more pages than he ever imagined.
John Pierce is the publisher of this bicentennial edition. He says while the book's longevity should be attributed to its folksy humor and practical information, an inadvertent forecast many years ago sure didn't hurt.
The thing that probably ensured the success of the almanac more than anything else was in 1816 when Robert B. Thomas was quite sick that summer. Apparently he had the flu or some type of virus that was going around, and the printer, and history is a little fuzzy on this point, but the printer, for some reason, either as a joke perhaps, or it might have been that he was irritated with Thomas because he could be quite crotchety. He was a persnickety fellow. Anyway, the printer inserted a forecast for snow in the month of July and went ahead and started printing the almanacs, and Thomas recovered and found out what was going on and stopped the presses and tried to recall as many copies as he could. But in spite of his best efforts, enough got out so the word was widespread that Thomas's almanac was predicting snow in July of 1816. And I don't know whether you'd know or not, but in 1815 there was a huge volcanic eruption in the Dutch West Indies, and as a result of that it snowed in the Northeast in June, July, and August. When that happened, his fame was made.
With its reputation firmly cemented in American minds, the Old Farmer's Almanac continued to thrive even after Thomas's death in 1840. Chock full of healthy doses of sage advice and reliable weather forecasts, the periodical grew in circulation and reputation, so much that in 1942, when the FBI apprehended 2 Nazi spies just put ashore by a German U-boat, what did they find in their trench coats but Farmer's Almanacs?
And as a result, the War Department was convinced that the only reason they had those almanacs was because of the weather forecast. So they felt it was maybe imperative to ban publication of the almanac.
The Old Farmer's Almanac survived its censorship scare and today still provides a little bit of everything.
There's something for people who like to cook. We always make sure that we have recipes and information about sort of famous American foods. This year we looked at 200 years of desserts in America. We always have history in there, and we always have information that's sort of, you might just call it trivial, but it's entertaining and things that you might not find anywhere else.
But it's the weather forecast that most turn to their Old Farmer's Almanacs for. With an 80% accuracy rate, the centuries-old periodical has a track record that turns most weather forecasters green with envy.
I think if you grant us the luxury of judging us on a seasonal basis, in other words, if we say it's going to be a warm, wet winter, as we're predicting for the eastern half of the United States this year, that we will be right 8 times in 10. If you want to look at it scientifically, which is only fair, and the last time we had our forecast really analyzed, it ranged from a low of 39% in one region to a high of 84% in the Southwest.
Now, even Pierce admits predicting the weather with any type of regularity is hard. Take, for instance, today. The Farmer's Almanac predicts overcast with a chance of rain. And all it takes is to look up at these blue skies to see how silly that is. Reporting for Oklahoma Gardening, I'm Rob McClendon.
We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. You can also find more recent videos on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.